It was only one sentence. How is all of the money gone? Welcome to the Aligned Business Series. Today's topic is the hidden red line that can kill your revenue and what to do when this comes across your plate. So there are, of course, plenty of red lines that a client can put onto a potential contract that can take your revenue, decrease it. But this is the big one because this one can stop everything that you thought was coming to you, which is why I always want to make sure that clients are aware of it. And why it's a big one is because it's in 99% of the templates and AI created things out there. So it is a big one to know. Hello, everyone. My name is Acacia Thornton. I'm the CEO, legal coach, longtime attorney and business advisor turned coach, helping small and medium businesses elevate their revenue and succeed. And one of the ways we always do that is using the contract, because the contract itself is an amazing revenue booster. You don't have to say or do anything differently, believe it or not. And it's also not only where you get to protect things, as we'll see today, but it's also where you get to have better client relationships. Believe it or not, there's more clarity, more communication. Things run so much smoother when there's little additions to your contract. Now, as always, this is the Aligned Business Series, which means we are going to answer your Q&A live. So if you have any questions during this, go ahead and put them in the chat. And you can catch all of the replays at the website across the bottom. But let's get to what you're here for, right? What are you here for? Let's talk about the hidden red line that can kill the revenue. And I'm going to start off with a story that I'm going to say is actually one of my clients, but the truth is this has happened to many of my clients over the years, and which is why it's one of the reasons they start to come to somebody like me, is that this is what goes wrong. They think they have a good template. They think they have a good contract, not realizing this is in there. And this is one of the things that they start to realize, oh, maybe somebody should look at this. Because when I was working, this happens when I was working at a Fortune 500. This happens to the big guys too. One of the sales reps comes to me. He's like, hey, Keisha, got a 6-year deal. I love it. I love it. Clients agreed to 6 years of our services, 6 years of pricing. It's all here. They just want to add this one sentence. And I look at it and I'm like, you don't want that sentence. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's a termination clause, a termination for convenience clause, which I'll tell you the exact words here in a sec. But a termination for convenience means that they can terminate because they feel like it. And if you add that, you don't have a 6-year deal. And he's like, well, they're not going to cancel. They're here for 6 years. And I'm like, then why do they want the line? That's the really big thing here. And so, like I said, this line already exists in majority of templates out there. And the line is this: either party may terminate this agreement at any time upon giving 30-day notice or upon giving 7-day notice or something like that, right? Either party may terminate at any time upon giving 30-day notice, which means they can do what? They can terminate it at any time. And that is what happened to one of my clients. She thought she does consulting. And so a lot of her customization and work is up front, right? That's when she has to do a lot of the onboarding. She's got to really customize things, ask the questions. Her work is mostly up front, and then she gets paid in the rest of it. Well, her template had this, and the client, after getting the bulk of the work from her, goes, all right, we'd like to trigger the termination clause. This is our notice. This will end in 30 days. And she's like, but you're not done paying me. Like, yeah, well, we're not going to go through the rest of the contract, so we don't need all that. And she's like, but most of my work is already delivered. What do I do? When we have a termination clause that allows the client to walk out the door, they get to take the revenue with them. And that's why this type of clause can just hurt so badly. And why it's important to look at when, why, how can somebody walk away? Because they're walking away with your money, with what you thought was a foundation under your feet. And the impacts are pretty big on a business, right? When you thought you had money coming in, you don't. But you've also planned for that. You've maybe bought resources, hired freelancers, hired a team. You brought people on to complete your side of the deal, expecting the client to keep their side. And this happens for two different types of reasons. One, we're trained to say yes, right? A client comes into the door, you want to say yes. You want to be like, yes, 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 I'd love to work with you. You want my products? You want this? You're happy with the pricing? Yes. But we don't necessarily stop to look at what the client might be changing or what's going on in the contract, especially if the red line comes back. We're just like, oh, whatever, it's not going to happen. Well, if they're adding a red line, there's probably a reason for it. There's probably a reason. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's malicious. And just like with my sales rep that I supported, it doesn't mean they're going to, in fact, leave. But why do they want a clause to be able to leave? And so and this is where we switch to the other side, where things go awry, is that the client is also entering into this agreement usually out of good faith. Yes, they want to be there the whole 6 years of the term with you, whatever it is. And this could happen in any contract longer than 30 days, right? If they only have to give you 30-day notice, then any contract over 30 days, this can happen to it. But they can't foresee their future. Maybe something shifts in the marketplace. Maybe they get new management. Maybe your competitor comes in and undercuts you mid-contract. And it'd be silly to say no to a similar product at a less price. So they're just trying to make good business decisions along the way. And when they have an out clause, the ability to stop payment or stop doing something midway, it gives them choices. But it gives them choices without giving you choices. And that's why this can hurt so much. So let's look at some ways that we can get your termination clause to be less painful, maybe not hurt so much. And we're going to go through some of them, but I do want you to know that module 3 in my aligned clients paid with purpose program is exactly this. It's going to walk you through more examples. It's going to walk you through how to decide what you want in yours, even look at your revenue stream and what timing you want, and then give you the copy paste. You can just copy paste straight from the worksheets in there, so you don't have to do any drafting at all. But let's walk through some of it. The first is termination for convenience. For convenience, just because. Let's put some triggers in there. You can only terminate if these certain things happen or these scenarios come up. Another is how much notice you get, right? 30-day notice. Sometimes that's enough, sometimes that's not. What if you have to give your freelancers and your suppliers 90-day notice? Well, who's on the hook for the extra 60 days? You. So you're going to want to switch it from a 30-day notice to 90-day notice or 120-day notice. Other things are, do they get to continue owning or licensing your product? Your stuff's in their hands. They didn't finish that agreement, those payment terms, all of that. What happens now? What's going on there? And some of the other areas are, okay, do you want any payment back? Is there no refund? Is there a percentage of it still has to come with, a fee? Maybe they lose bundle pricing. All these different types of things, understanding where your revenue is along the way, and then how that can be into a termination clause. Okay, you can't terminate for the first year at all. You're guaranteed. And then all after that, then this. So, and there could be a percentage. It could be a fee that you want to charge, whatever that is. There's all different ways to structure them. So having a customized termination clause is really, really important because it affects how much of that revenue you get to keep. How much of it is guaranteed versus presumed. It's only guaranteed. If the client can stop it, it's not guaranteed revenue. And I also had to teach it to sales reps to understand that they're like, well, I've got my 6-year quota met for this. It's like, no, if they can walk out the door after 90 days, you technically have a 90-day contract that just keeps going 90 days at a time. So wherever that notice period is and the ability to pull the revenue out, that is going to affect your accounting, your bookkeeping, and other things as well. Because if the money's gone, the money is gone. All right, I see some questions coming in. I do want to remind you all about the Aligned Clients Pay with Purpose program. That is module 3. Termination clauses is module 3. That's what it walks you through. You're going to get a video with so many more details, so many more stories and questions, and then a revenue worksheet. So you can see where the revenue goes when, how much notice do you want or need, and then you could just copy paste right from that straight into your agreement. So you have a customized one that is not going to pull the rug out from under you like it did for the sales reps and for my client. Let's see some of your questions. What exactly is a termination for convenience clause? So a termination clause, just one in general, a termination clause is the ability to end a contract before its actual expiration date. So a 6-year contract, it would expire after 6 years. A 12-month contract would expire after 12 months. And when you can terminate, that lists the ways that you can end it early. And so termination for convenience means you can do it just out of convenience. They don't have to tell you why. Nobody has to say why. It's just, hey, what do I have to do? Give notice 30 days? Okay, here's my notice 30 days. That's it. So that's why we call it termination for convenience. It's convenient. You can do it for whenever, whatever. There's no fees. There's no cost. There's nothing for the person terminating. They just get out clean. That's why we call it that. Can I ask for a non-refundable deposit? You can, of course. You can always ask for right payment up front. These are things like that. What sometimes happens is if they terminate early, they might expect a refund. So saying, hey, just because you're out early doesn't mean you get that refund. So being clear about that non-refundable aspect for sure. But yeah, how you want to structure your payment is I always recommend structuring the payment based on where your costs are and where your risk is, making sure those are met and covered first, and then go from there. Yep. Okay. What do I do if the client insists on their clause? Okay. So first, let's even talk. It's there. You said something back and they're like, no, I insist on it. May I ask why you don't feel confident finishing this contract, right? Because that's what you want to know. If you're going to sign a 12-month contract with me, why are you so insistent on getting out of it early? It's probably not malicious. What I have discovered in my experience negotiating is that sometimes something's going on the other side they're just not ready to say. One time I had somebody on the other side be like, look, we might get acquired or we might have an IPO. I can't guarantee. Okay, thank you for telling me that. Rather than give you a termination for convenience, why don't we say, in the event you are merged or in the event you have your IPO, this is how we'll proceed. That's different than termination for whatever, because while that might be all the client is thinking about now, that might not be all that comes up during the term of the agreement. Or a termination for convenience, they could do it for whatever reason. Where now you're saying, hey, not a problem. I understand that you might merge. That would make sense why you might need to shift some things. Not a problem. In the event that happens, then let's have you can terminate in the event of a merger by giving me 60-day notice, right? Then you also know it's not malicious. It's something that's out of your control and they're just trying to do good by their business. So if they're really, really insistent on it, I like to get a little bit more information. And if they're really just going to like stonewall you, is that a customer you want? Somebody's not going to even be honest and upfront with you about why they won't accept your contract the way it is, how you've chosen to do business. So it's just an opportunity to have better communication. Should I be reviewing every contract they send back, even if it's a small red line? Yes. The important thing is to know how those red lines impact the agreement. Because here's the truth. No one's going to redline to help you. They're going to redline to do something in their favor. So usually they're either going to give themselves something more rights, more opportunity, more freedom to terminate, or they're going to lower their obligation to you. Hey, I don't want to indemnify you. Hey, I don't want to cover your costs for this. No, I don't. So they're not going to redline because they want to give you more. That's not what's going to happen. So if they're redlining, you're either giving more than you anticipated, or you're going to get less, and understanding what that is. Because like I said, sometimes it's reasonable. Sometimes it makes sense. Or sometimes you'll be like, oh, you needed that. That's not a problem. But to offset that, I'm going to need to ask for this. Because that's what a negotiation is how do we get everybody to agreement? We want communication on both sides. Everybody's happy, working together. And so understanding why the red line is there is what's important. How is it impacting you? Is it decreasing what you're getting from them? Or is it increasing your costs and responsibilities to them? If I don't understand the edit, can I just delete it? Yes. So I wouldn't say delete it. What I would say is you could say no to it, which is the same as deleting, but just say, I cannot accept this red line. You don't have to explain why. They might come ask you why, and then you could go figure it out. But no, it's okay. If you don't understand it, I mean, it's your business, right? You wouldn't want to take on an obligation or a risk you don't understand. So yes, you can reject it. I wouldn't delete it. Make sure it's being properly documented so they understand that you've rejected it. That's what it's called. Reject sounds a little harsh, but it just means, no, I'm not accepting that. But yeah, if you don't understand it, you can ask them. Although if there's lawyers on the other side and you're not a lawyer, I would not ask them to explain it to you. It's something they might try to take advantage of because you're not their client, so they don't have to tell you the whole truth. Where a business person on the other side, more inclined to tell you the truth, but not always, because they don't have to either. Do we need a lawyer to look at every red line? No, these are your contracts. These are your contracts. So as long as you understand what you're agreeing to, because you're the one on the hook for whatever in there, whatever you're saying to give and promise your clients and get back. But you don't need a lawyer. But if you're not understanding it, I would recommend getting help from somebody who does. Doesn't have to be a lawyer, but just somebody who understands contracts. That could be a coach like me, like a legal coach like me. It can be a lawyer. You might be able to find a contract specialist, something like that. But usually if you're looking for outside help, it needs to either be a coach or a lawyer under state laws, but not always. So do you need one? No, you can do it yourself. But if you don't understand it, please do get help or say no to the red line. All right, let's see. What if I don't feel confident enough to say no? Okay, confidence is an energetic and headspace. I would start there because what about your business are you not feeling confident about? Because it's very important that we build businesses that are aligned to us, that function from a heart space that is aligned to us, because otherwise it can lead to burnout and it can lead to fatigue, energetic fatigue. And if you know manifesting, like I teach manifesting, that just actually depletes your odds of success because it depletes your energetic space. So confidence, I would just even start with, why don't you feel confident? And then look at that. Is it a confidence because you don't know what's on the paper? Is it confidence because you're not used to saying no? Is it confidence because you're afraid of your clients, right? None of that sounds very aligned. I'd start with working through some mindset or some sensory work on that. I have that in some of my manifesting courses if you ever need that. Or, you can set up a one-on-one call with me if you want. But I would start there because this is your business. Nobody knows your business better than you. Nobody can know your business better than you. Not a business coach, not even a lawyer. Nobody can know your business, how you do business, what feels right to you other than you. All a lawyer can do, all a business coach can do is support you at being better with what they know to help elevate you. But at the end of the day, it's your knowledge, your alignment, your confidence, your yes, 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 yes. So I would make sure that we get there on that. All right, guys, looks like we got through everything. Don't forget there's the Aligned Clients Pay with Purpose. in case you want to take more look at that. And of course, you can get all of our replays. We go live 3 times a week with the Aligned Business.